everyone, it's Speak Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to take a look back at the action thriller Ricochet and ask the question as to whether it's one of the worst movies within the great Denzel Washington's long-time career. Now, the movie itself was released back on October the 4th, 1991. It of course has Denzel Washington in the lead role, and he stars alongside John Lithgow, Lindsay Wagner, Ice-T, Kevin Pollak and Victoria Dullard, and the film was directed by Russell Mulcahy. Set in the early 1990s, it follows the story of LAPD officer Nick Stiles, who with the help of his partner Larry Doyle are on the pursuit of a vicious drug dealer named Earl Talbot Blake. In a tense standoff that's filmed live on television, Stiles uses all of his wits to get the better of Blake and eventually arrest him. Hailed as a hero detective, Stiles' career is propelled as Blake ends up in long-term imprisonment. Around 8 years later, Stiles has elevated himself to district attorney and is now married with 2 kids. Whilst in prison, Blake harbours designs of revenge as he views Stiles' ascension. Working alongside other inmates, Blake manages to break free from his parole meeting and escape. Now free at large, he plans to exact a terrifying revenge, putting the life of Stiles and his family all in danger. So when we take a look back at Ricochet and answer the original question as to whether it's one of the worst films of Denzel's career, and I think overall it very may well be. Going back on Denzel's filmography, you try to find the low points, and there really aren't too many, to be honest with you. When you look over his work, most of his films are at least very watchable, and this is mostly down to Denzel himself and his greatness as an actor. I can't even think of a bad Denzel performance. He normally elevates an average movie to make it very good. But even his acting prowess can't help Ricochet this time around, which overall turns out to be a very over-the-top, inconsistent and implausible story. On the outset, it should be a straightforward, dark, psychological thriller, and it does start out quite decent enough as we see Stiles apprehending Blake in the beginning, but once we focus on Blake in prison, the movie starts to go all out stupid. Firstly, we have Blake's gladiatorial-like prison fights against other inmates with seemingly no security around whatsoever, as is the same when he escapes from his parole meeting, as if other inmates would be able to go in there and masquerade as guards all too easily. And the way that they just break out is just so outlandish and improbable, you just struggle to take it seriously. We then have the very strange sequence where Stiles is drugged and is manipulated into having sex with a prostitute who purposefully gives him an STD. And we have the ridiculous and laughable scene 2/3 of the way through where Stiles jumps from an exploding building down a chute into the ground safely with all the media watching. And it seems like this is where the film becomes or tries to be much more of a slam bang action movie, where the story really should stay more close to being a nocturnal noir-esque type of thriller where you have the crazed antagonist. And this type of movie was so regularly seen throughout the early to mid 1990s. So many famous films which had similar elements but executed them far more purposefully and skillfully when compared to this film. We then take a look at John Lithgow's performance, who is a great actor in himself, and he's more than adept at playing psychotic villains. But this role here as Blake, he just goes too much over the top and exaggerated. It's one thing to let these type of actors immerse fully into the character, but Lithgow goes too far at times, making the villain far more comical than actually chilling. Now in terms of Denzel, he's actually fine in this role, and he's probably the best part of the film, especially when we see Stiles finding himself and his life spiralling out of control under Blake's machinations as he loses grip on his own sanity and connection with his family. Denzel convincingly portrays all of the paranoia and disillusion with a certain amount of conviction. And this is when the movie does manage to generate some sense of urgency and tension. Unfortunately, it all leads to a dumb building explosion sequence that I mentioned before, as well as a absolutely stupid confrontation climax that we get right at the end of the very film. Now when it's released, Ricochet wasn't exactly a box office success, barely grossing over $21 million at the box office. It was somewhat of a downturn of a success of Denzel, who was coming off the major Oscar win for his brilliant performance in Edward Swick's magnificent film Glory in 1990. And to be honest, it's largely a forgotten entry within Denzel's career, especially when we reflect on the early 1990s stage. On reflection, during this time I tend to look more at the likes of Malcolm X and Mo Better Blues and Philadelphia as really the highlights of Denzel's career at this particular stage. Ricochet, sadly, was definitely not one of those. Definitely a low point, but nothing too damaging in Denzel's overall legacy and where his career stands currently at this moment. So those are my thoughts and feelings when looking back at the action thriller Ricochet from the early 90s. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any other further movies, television series, or any other issues or topics with the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within this channel, then also let me know in the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you more quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.